Hey everybody, wanted to put together this video to show the power of using BIM, building information modeling, throughout a project. And BIM is very powerful when you need to have a bunch of different subs and people working in a tight constraint and working together in a harmonious way, I guess you'd say. So I'm going to show you a model of a room called a speakeasy. It's a bar in a residence in Northern California that we were able to design and implement BIM from the beginning while it was in the frame stages. And this client had a very specific detailed ceiling detail that they needed to put into a very tight space. And we only had 12 inches to deal with from the frame ceiling down to the finished ceiling. There was a very shapely coffered ceiling that was going to have lighting. We had really tight restraints for HVAC and electrical. So all of those different subs working together, we were able to generate a really cool product and put a lot of stuff in a very small space. So let me bring up the model here real quick. So this is the bar. What we did is we created these panel details that are shut off, but they come across this wall over here in the backside, but I have those turned off just for visibility. And so we worked with the designer in the modeling and implementation of this bar. And a lot of stuff going on, a lot of carved elements, stuff that you don't see in here, which I'll show you in the photographs. We were very fortunate to work with a company called J.P.Weaver, based in Southern California, and they do compo and resin moldings. And in this area across the top here, up in the ceiling, which you'll see, there was quite a bit of their product that we implemented into the design. A lot of the elements that you'll see here, these are elements that the designer had done conceptual drawings, and we turned into a 3D model. We also have carved elements that we produced for each one of these columns. These scroll details, we produced all of this stuff. Basically everything that you see here in gray, paneling, carving, cabinetry, everything was fabricated at our facility. But anyway, so this video is to show the power of using BIM and using a 3D model and everybody working off of those drawings to create timely and getting a lot of stuff in a small space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on a little bit a layer here one at a time. This grid layout, this shows the center of this section of the room. And we had a large oval, we had an oval detail here and then one over the bar. And that area from the finished ceiling, or from the frame ceiling, was 9 feet. And down here at the top of these panels and the top of this crown detail is 8 feet. So we had 12 inches to work with that we had to get a lot of other subs had to get their product in that space and still end up with a nice detail. So let me turn on the next layer here. So this was the first layer that we implemented in our design. So you can see over the top of the bar, we have a large oval here, and then we have a structure, a reverse curves, generating this large area here. So from this area, and you'll see here in a second, we had a drop down of about 5.5 inches, and then a protrusion out of 12 to 14 inches for this large shadow soffitted area that traveled around in this shape. And the way that we did that was, if you look down on this green layer, all of these sections here are fabricated out of 4x8 sheets. They're actually 47.5 inches across, so we were able to cut the joint line and these pockets. And these pockets, what they do is they accept another piece of plywood, which is in a rib or a frame stage that is going to go around the ceiling. You'll see that here in a second. You can see these little jigsaw puzzle pieces here, or dog bones. These were placed at each one of the joints wherever these 4x8 sheets lined up with each other, and that helped with alignment and kept everything in really, really tight tolerance. One of the things that we did was, in this grid pattern here, you can see we have center of room and center of this profile. We did the same thing on this arch here, and what we did was we placed a removable temporary MDF pattern that we cut on the CNC on the ceiling that had this grid on it, which we identified with the laser. And what that did is that allowed us to, as we installed this green layer here and traveled around the outside, we knew that we were in tight tolerance. We were staying around around this middle piece here. And by the time we got all the way around, and this was our last joint, we were within a 32nd of an inch, and we were able to just bring those together with a few taps on a hammer or a clamp, and then put that last set of dog bones or jigsaw puzzle pieces in there to get that fabricated. This thing was all screwed off to the framing, to the joists, so it was very, very stout. So let me turn on our next layer here. We'll turn on the ribs. So this is the profile that I was talking about, where we have a shadow box area here. We have about 4.5 inches here vertically. There's a bottom skin I'll show you here in a second, but this elevation here, we had a J.P.Weaver molding that traveled across the front of this. We had a molding at the top and a molding at the bottom to capture that carved element. And then this area back in here, both the face of this and the face of this lower area, we applied a bender ply to close off the structure. But the one thing I wanted to show about this, and this is the power of using this in a BIM. And if you're not clear, BIM is Building Information Modeling and Building Information Management. This is obviously modeling. And what we did we had the largest occupier of this space here was a plenum HVAC duct that needed to travel from this side over here. We had some venting here and here, and then we needed to travel down both sides and have an air supply that dumped down in a grill, custom grills at both sides above these two doorways. This is a French door, and this is a French door down here between the TV wall panel. So let me turn that on so you can take a look at that. So this ducting, we had the HVAC calculations were generated, and we came up with a size of a ducting that needed to travel through here. I believe it was 13 or 14 inches in width by 4 inches in height to get the volume that we needed to travel through here. So what we did is we created that model, subtracted from this grid, to make it travel down between the oval and this side over here. We had to have a little kink in it. And so what we did is we generated a template for the HVAC guy, and they actually made their plenum off of our template so that we knew that piece was going to fit in there. They strapped it up in there. We also had some lighting. There was can lights here, 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 in multiple places, and we cut that into the bottom skin, which I'll show you in just a second. But what this did is, you can see these this grid pattern across here. Each one of these pieces was recessed up into the mortise and tenon joint, I guess you call it, and then fastened through there. So we had this whole structure that was suspended down from this first green layer, and then accepted all the other subs that needed to be going through here, electrical, HVAC, and so on. So then what we did was we came in and we put let me turn it off so you can see. So you can see on top of the this little soffit shelf, we had another piece of plywood that was cut on the CNC, brought right out to the front edge of those guys. And then at this point, this is where we put our top bender ply in here to create the back edge of this recessed area. And then our bottom layer was placed down underneath that. So it has, just as we did on the top when we put all those rib pieces in there, you can see this little joint. I think it was 2.5 or 3 inches. I believe all this plywood spec'd out at 0.72. It was a Russian birch that we used, really good quality plywood. And we gave ourselves 0.008 offset of the hole in the next layer of plywood, so that we weren't fighting it. But you know, with the application of glue and screws going into that bottom layer into this guy, this thing was rock solid. So let me show you that layer again. So here's the blue layer, and you can see all of these pieces were generated in 4x8s. This layer doesn't show it, but this was extracted and then broken up into pieces that fit within 4x8 sheets, and then that same dog bone or jigsaw puzzle piece for alignment was placed in there. And so this gave us a really, really strong kind of monocoque type design. We got a lot of stuff in a very small area, and we were able to, let me show you this, bring up this picture again. I'm going to take this back to kind of about the area where this photograph was taken, if I can. Let's bring it over about there, and then let's bring this photograph back up. So you can see this is the J.P.Weaver molding that was put across, or put in between our upper and our lower molding. All of these pieces of molding, the ones that travel around the large soffitted area, and then the oval in here, all of these pieces were cut on the CNC, and we even cut the miters, both top and bottom. So what we did is we dry fit all these pieces, held them up with clamps, and moved them around so that all the miters lined up correctly. And then we pulled down one piece at a time, fastened it to the ceiling up into this plywood, and fasten one piece, clamp it up, and then worked our way around both top and bottom. And then after we got the top and bottom molding put in, then we applied the J.P.Weaver molding across there. You can kind of see there's some J.P.Weaver here above our panel sections, this crown molding in the top here. Then all the other elements, this leaf pattern, this alternating leaf pattern, the designer came up with that profile. We turned it into a 3D model, and then created these guys too. You can see these candy canes. We call them candy canes, but they're a candy cane that are a curl that flows into a fabric, a draping fabric pattern. The reason that these are at different heights is they had a TV that is going to come down within about 1.5 inches of the top of these guys here, and then they had artwork over here, and then a couple of the other walls had mirrors that were custom cut to that shape. I think they had a couple panels or fabric panels on this wall over here on the right side also. So one of the things that I wanted to show was this corner. We have a pretty cool photograph of this corner right here. Let me bring this guy down kind of in the attitude that was from the photograph that I took. And you'll see right here, this photograph was taken at this location right here. So this molding and this molding was applied to this lower section here. The bender ply was put on there, and then the J.P.Weaver decorative molding was applied to that. And we had a piece of molding, or actually 2 pieces of molding capping this top section. And so there, all of the trim in this whole room is getting high gloss black. This was a primer coat, and then any of the carved elements are getting a silver leaf, and then the plaster up on the ceiling is an antiqued silver leaf also. So pretty cool. Let's go back and take one more look at this. I think that's all we had to show. The biggest thing that I wanted to get, that I wanted to show everybody here was how this would have been pretty much impossible to do if you were to try to frame this with 2x4s and get a nice perfect curve. And we were, because we started with just the raw structure or the raw room, and then drew every element into this, we were able to, with very, very tight tolerances, be able to generate each element of this down to the trim that was to trim out both the top and the bottom of this soffitted area, and pre-cut everything. Kind of unheard of. You know, you just bring out a stack of pieces of molding, and then just start applying them. Not even bringing a saw out and cutting them. It was pretty cool. And so this is the power. This is on a small scale. This is the power of implementing BIM, building information modeling, and it's really cool to be able to see a product or a project go from design through the implementation of hundreds and hundreds of parts, and then have it turn into the finished product. This picture was taken during the primer stage, so it's obviously much brighter. But all of the elements in here were either J.P.Weaver or carved on our CNCs in our facility here in Northern California. So anyway, just wanted to give a quick BIM overview, and give us a call if you have any questions. We would love to take a look at your project and help you out. And have a great day.